I'm Gaetana Matatacho.
And we come from Franklin, Louisville, and Lima, Florida, and today we're going to be talking about sustainable transportation. So what is sustainable transportation? So sustainability is conserving an economical balance by avoiding diversion of natural resources. And transportation is the act of transporting things or someone to one place or another. And so, what is sustainable transportation together? Well, sustainable transportation together is finding a method and a way to get to places in a way of trying not to consume as much emissions as we do regularly. It's a method and a way to transport better and better emissions.
So why is sustainable transportation so important? We need to take care of our atmosphere. Our atmosphere is our life. Without an atmosphere, we can't live. It's important because we need to lower our pollution rate and our carbon emissions because the carbon emissions hurt our atmosphere. And if we reduce carbon emissions, we get cleaner air, which will reduce health problems, and health problems do affect us directly. Okay, so here we have how many vehicles are converted to natural gas motors. So in yellow, we have all the vehicles that are converted and that owners bought them with their own money and converted them. And then in red, we have all the vehicles that have financial aid from the government to convert them as well.
And where is this for? In Peru?
Yeah.
Okay, so this picture really means a lot in the view of everyone's perspective with the CO2. So here the picture says, remember, objects in the mirror are closer than they appear, and that's the carbon footprint. Usually we can't see the emissions in the air. It's transparent, so people don't really notice how much we're emitting and how much we're actually damaging to the environment. So this picture basically represents that even though you can't see it, it's there. So some people don't really realize how much it is and so how much they're really damaging the environment.
Okay, so what's the relationship of sustainable transportation with the greenhouse effect? So the greenhouse effect is the carbon emissions being released into the air, and transportation releases carbon emissions into the air if it's not with a natural gas motor. So when the carbon emissions are released into the air, the ozone layer that we have in our atmosphere breaks, and it's created with a new layer which doesn't let the heat leave our Earth, and that obviously creates climate change because the heat stays in our atmosphere, and that produces health problems for us.
So the cause and effect.
So the economical effect is so if we want to use new type of transportation, sustainable transportation, it will be hard because some people that work in places where they use fossil fuels, it will be harder to fire them and make them get new jobs. So jobs will have to be taken away, and that may create some social effect, and people will not be that happy with it. So for this transition to be efficient, the government has to create some type of programs for the other people to learn how to get a job to introduce sustainable transportation to the rest of the world. And the livable communities, the more sustainable transportation we give to our communities, we will be able to have a better lifestyle.
What is a social effect? So air pollution, and that is made up with the combustions of fuels. And basically, what really affects us is the health problems that we get from this air pollution. We have respiratory problems like asthma, bronchitis, lung cancer, etc. And that usually leads to death if it's a very big impact on you. And also, this means lots of hospital visits, very frequent hospital visits, so you can get cured. And this also gives school and work absences. We miss education, we miss our work, and also sometimes without going to work regularly or missing so many days, you can also lose the money that you earn from your work.
So the environmental effect of using sustainable transportation, like we said before, it reduces the greenhouse effect, and it produces more usage of public transportation, so less cars on the street, which means less traffic, and as I said before, livable communities.
So what is happening to our city? And our city would be Lima, Peru. So
Here we have a video of all the transportation that Lima has, sustainable and non-sustainable, but this is generally all the transportation we have in Lima, Peru.
all the transportation methods that we saw and we can see in our city. Are there speakers? Yes. The full screen. So as you saw in the video, that we have in our city in Lima, we have the Corredor Azul, which is a bus system. We have bike paths, and we also have public buses, which people usually get on to get to their places.
In the public buses, we have how they call it Lima combis, which are buses that people use, and usually they cost from 20 cents most to about 5 soles depending where you go. And the Corredor Azul has I will show later the map of all the ways they go and what point to what point they get to.
5 soles would be how many dollars?
5 stars
Would be I think 250.
250.
So very affordable.
Yeah.
So Lima, Peru, and its CO2. There's lots of traffic in Peru, and basically there's too many cars on the road. There's like an excessive amount of cars. And there's lots of old buses and cars, which mostly taxis, and also the lack of government support. The government helps our city to be a little bit more sustainable in transportation and giving more methods. Like they just did a bike path in our city, but they don't help enough to like make a change where you can see that something has changed because of what the government has done. Like they help, but not as much. And regarding to the old buses and the old used cars, they're too old enough. They're very old, so they contaminate more as in newer cars that we have now. So those cars have more than 20 years, 25 years. And here we found a video about a news station in Lima called the RPP Noticias, and they did a video about the city's perspective with the contamination, and they also they interviewed the people to see what their thoughts were about contamination. And please note that this is in Spanish, so if you don't understand Spanish, we'll explain later what they say.
Es lo que respiramos en zonas como la avenida Bancay. Según la OMS, la Organización Mundial de la Salud, Lima es la ciudad con aire más contaminado de Latinoamérica. Supera hasta el 400% el límite, si se quiere decir, recomendable de aire con cierta contaminación. El principal problema, el parque automotor público.
Todos los días vengo por acá porque estoy en un instituto y hay mucha contaminación. El tráfico también es lo que hace eso, porque de los carros salen bastante humo y eso nos contamina a nosotros, nos arden los ojos y hasta los dolores de cabeza ahí.
El hecho de combatir esta contaminación, ¿a quién le corresponde? ¿A las autoridades o también a los ciudadanos comunes?
Bueno, nosotros también de parte, una parte de nosotros y una parte de autoridades. porque creo que las autoridades tienen que poner cartas en el asunto, ¿no?
Okay, so basically in this video what they showed was what you saw on the finger. That's basically what the carbon that sticks onto the walls and the poles of the street. And we also got the people's perspective on examination through, and they interviewed a girl that goes to university, and she says that every time walks to the university because it's close by to her house, she gets headaches and her eyes start to itch because of contamination. And I've seen that people when they walk around the streets they have to they go with their mouth and their nose covered. So that was just basically a video to show you the public's perspective on contamination.
Like the main idea of this video was that Lima is one of the most contaminated places in Latin America.
And without intention, both of our speakers today are actually sick with respiratory illness from a cold they caught last week. As a teacher, I'll tell you, I see kids get sick way more often. We've got a few people here that suffer from really bad allergies. So living in the city, even just for a short period of time, you feel the impact.
So, old vehicles. So the quality of air is, the bad quality of air we have in Lima is mostly because of the used vehicles we have there. So, according to an interview I read of Isabel Calle, she's a program director of environmental policy and management of the Peruvian Society of Environmental Law. She said that since 1 year, about 1970, importing used vehicles were 75 through 80% were used vehicles in Lima. And the motors that used vehicles have, they produce more carbon emissions, which increase our air pollution.
So Lima it's scientifically proven that it's the worst, has the worst air quality in Latin America. According to the local newspaper, El Comercio, Lima is the most contaminated city in South America. There's 14 tons per square kilometer of atmospheric dust inhaled in Lima per month, and they're recommended by the World Health Organization. The ideal amount per month is around 5.2 square kilometers of atmospheric dust. Also, Lima has a rate of 38 micrograms of PM 2.5, which are particles of pseudo and heavy metals per cubic meter. The Health Organization also said that it's ideal to consume around 10 micrograms per year. So basically, we can conclude that Lima is emitting 3 times, even almost 4, than the recommended.
Hello, sorry for the interruption. We know that some sessions started a bit over time, and we really don't want to cut the session short. So it's okay to go a bit past the time. We'll have snacks for you waiting in the lobby. Thank you.
So as I said, that they're going almost 3 or 4, and 4, almost 4, sorry, and then what is recommended by the World Health Organization.
So what can you guys do for your community? In our community right now in Lima, we have bike paths, and that helps a lot because we reduce the amount of cars we have, and it's in a way that it's sustainable because it's a bicycle and it doesn't run on any type of motor, so no carbon emissions. Reduce the amount of public buses, the old ones, because some public buses are good because a lot of people can fit in them, so not a lot of cars, but depending on what type of bus. And eliminate old cars and trucks and have sidewalks. In some districts in Lima, there are no sidewalks to walk, so the only way to go from one place to another is driving.
And I want to add some more to this. In Lima, our city, it's too small, so when they were building a city, they didn't have the knowledge to actually put the sidewalks, the roads are too big. And so you can see people walking on the road where the cars go, and it's very dangerous. And there are bike paths, but there's not as much. And they don't have it in some. They only have it in some districts. They don't have it in all the places.
Some mayors implemented the sidewalks and the bike paths, but in certain districts, not at all. Like
And so reducing the amount of public buses, I would say that in some places of Lima, there are more public buses than there are personal cars. There's too much, and since they're too old, they emit a lot more than like of the cars. And so if we reduce the amount of public buses, but yet keep some and probably switch them to a newer model of a bus, that would totally reduce the amount of emissions.
So what is our community and our actions that our community is doing? So there are a lot of NGOs in our community, and a lot of schools are starting to implement the learning of sustainability and the environment and how we can help it and what's actually going on right now. The government is implementing many policies, and there are a lot of projects in progress right now. For example, Hoja de Ruta para una Movilidad y un Transporte Sostenible en Lima y Callao al 2025, which is a program to have a subway in Lima, which we don't have. And in this picture you can see the route they want to do with the subway is from Callao, which is the outsides of Lima, all the way down to Lima here. And that project is accepted, but it's going to take some time to actually be implemented into.
Yeah, they accepted the proposal. The government accepted the proposal. It's not already done, but their goal is to have it done by 2025. Right. So this is the electric train route of Lima, and it's the Linea Uno, and so these are the stops of the train, and this is basically to show how long the train is and all the stops. So it goes most of the parts of Lima, usually across the whole city, so a lot of people can go on it. So this is just one method of transportation in Lima.
And this is a corredor azul. This is a public bus that was implemented about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, and it goes from Rimac all the way down to Miraflores, and it goes only to there. But lately there've been, like, since it's getting really used because it's not expensive and it's for like everybody in the public, there have been lines outside waiting to get into this bus because it's very helpful, and the buses are new and they're clean and they run on natural gas.
And this bus specifically has its own private lane, so they don't go through all the traffic. And what Miraflores, San Isidro, and all these places are the districts in Lima. Oh, here are the bike paths of Lima and the outskirts of Lima, and these are the red lines. It shows the bike paths. It doesn't show since this is a big a small map. It looks like there's a lot, but it's actually not. You don't see it much in the city. You can see it going on one street, and then you continue and it like finishes. So it's not really. There's a bike path in each street. So that's just some of what there is in Lima.
And Susana Villarán was our mayor, and she was the person that introduced these things to Lima. For example, the bike paths, she actually implemented that, and she introduced that to the public. The blue bus, which is a corredor azul, she wasn't the one who made that happen. It was our mayor before her, but she was the one that continued that project. And same with the Metropolitano, which is also an electric train, and also the electric train afterwards. And she didn't do those, but she was the one that continued the projects and actually made them be public to Lima.
So what can be some solutions that we have that we can add on to Lima? Raising awareness, gathering transportation unions, government officials, civilians, business people. This is more like raising awareness. If you raise more awareness and you give education to people and actually show them what is happening to their city, they might actually take action and know what they have to do to reduce the amount of emissions committed in Lima. And petitions, like signing an agreement. If you get a proposal, if you want a proposal and you get a lot of people sign, then maybe the government might actually say, oh, this is what the people want, and they'll actually make a change. Switching to buses that are more sustainable. This basically is what we were telling you. Since there were like the taxi buses, and they are very old, so they emit more than any personal car. If we could switch these, this could also reduce the amounts. And also lowering the cost of the buses. Maybe some people don't actually like going on the buses because they probably have to go many times a day. So that means they use a lot of money. If they lowered it a little bit more, then maybe they would actually go on, and that'd be less cars on the road. They can carpool with everyone else in the bus. So this is the People's Climate March that just happened in New York, and this was basically to raise awareness, to tell everyone that, hey, climate change is happening. And this was more like to show everyone and to tell everyone, hey, we actually want to make a change, and this was actually a way to announce it. So here's a video about it.
The People's Climate March will take place 2 days before President Obama and world leaders attend a climate summit at the UN.
Climate change will bring more extreme weather, and action is now more urgent than ever.
Millions of people around the world gather in the largest climate action march in history.
The biggest gathering seeking to address climate change ever.
2,000 rallies in 162 countries from Paris, Melbourne, Australia, Rio de Janeiro. Activists are filling the streets to demand action on climate change.
We are here because we are redefining this movement, this time. I want to thank all of the marchers today for coming together and taking a stand. We need you.
Also, a massive people's march. I hope the leaders of the world listen.
We're the first generation to deal with the impacts of climate change and the last to do anything about it.
Our citizens keep marching. We cannot pretend we do not hear them. We have to answer.
So there was one recently about like a month ago in New York, and this was to give a message to everyone that the climate change is happening and they need to act now. So in our school and the transportation.
So our school's transportation. Our school has about we have brand new buses that we just got in our school. Sorry, that run on natural gas, and we have small buses that are sport buses that run on diesel and gasoline. We have 2 pickup and drop areas for people that have cars, and we have the personal cars. And we have biking and walking, which not a lot of people do, except if they live really close to school. And then we have some people that go in public transportation.
So we actually got to know what our school's carbon footprint was, and we got some research to see that our FTL school, Lima, emits 674 tons of carbon emissions per year, and this was done in 2012. So 4 out of 10 students and 5 out of 10 faculty travel to school by car. And the next statistics that we're going to show you are basically how many people go to school and leave from school in what type of transportation. So from non-bus commuting students in car, 77.80% go in their personal car, 4% go in taxi or public bus, 13.10% carpool, 5.6% walk to school if they live close by, and 2.5% go to school by their bike. And this walking and biking only goes to the people that live in front of school and live nearby, because usually you can't, it's too long if you live a little bit farther away.
So here we have other estimates of, so a family car, about 80% go in a family car, 1 family per car, no carpooling. Then public buses or any type of public transportation is about 10%. Bicycles are about 5%. Carpooling with other students is about 18%, and by foot is 5% as well.
So this is basically, we did a survey to see, do you commute to school by? And by own car, 57.6 responded that they went on their car. 1.4% said they went on public bus. Another 1.4% said they were going by bike. 20.1% said they carpool with others. 16.5% said they rode by school bus, and 13.7% said they go in taxi. So basically, we can conclude that the FDR students in our school usually travel to school by their own personal car. In a way, they go on their own personal car because it's easier. It doesn't cost as much as going on the bus, because the bus you do need to pay, and it's faster. Time on a bus, you have to wait till everyone else is picked up, and so it does lose a lot of your time. Like if you go in your own car, you could just go to school easier. You don't need to make stops.
So, as I said before, our bus transportation. So we have 9 big buses, 5 medium and 4 large, and 12 small sport buses. So the cost of the big bus is $119,000. $US. And out of 1,642 students, 832 ride the bus. And the cost of the drop-off and pickup is $1,512 per year. And the cost of drop-off or pickup is $756 per year.
And our source, we interviewed Jorge Coquero, which is our transportation manager from our school, and he gave us all this information about the bus system. So our question is there any way that we can make our bus system better and the other transportation methods of our school better? So one of our solution would be replacing the smaller buses with bigger ones that run on natural gas, have rules for a carpooling system, and changing the bus routes.
So why do we want this? To get more people on the bus, there's not a lot of space. Reduce traffic because reducing traffic reduces the CO2 emissions, and less cars on the road, which is less traffic, and improvement in air quality to have more livable communities, and to save money as well.
In reducing traffic and CO2 emissions, the reason why we want to reduce traffic is because when you're stuck in traffic, if your car is still on, it's idle, so it's still emitting and it's still running. So if we take some cars off the road, that means we don't have to spend a lot of time with the car sitting there waiting for everyone, for the traffic to flow. Well, that would mean less CO2 emissions if we actually get some cars off the road, so the traffic wouldn't be as bad. So this picture basically shows what we're doing, what CO2 and these emissions do, for example, the greenhouse effect as well, and climate change. And the planet's representing other people saying that, oh, look, the world's really bad. It says, if you want to survive, never ever become invested with humans. So this basically shows that we are the ones damaging it, and we need to act now, and that we need to fix what we're doing so we can make our earth healthier.
So how do we improve the situation? So increasing the amount of big buses by increasing the amount of buses by replacing the smaller ones with big ones, because the big ones are the ones that run on natural gas. So also we've been trying to find a good quality natural gas van, but it's been hard because some of them are really expensive, or the brands aren't really trustworthy, because we have been doing surveys on other schools that have used some brands of vans. And natural gas is cheaper because gasoline and diesel are much more expensive for the buses. And we want to find a way for the bus routes to be faster to go to school, so that more people can go to it, and to find not a lot of stop signs, so we don't just have our buses just there polluting more, so they can find a faster way of reducing the emissions they produce to the atmosphere.
And we have a FedEx example that we're going to explain in the next few slides, so you understand a little bit more about the bus routes.
And also some carpooling ideas we had was some stickers. For example, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, a certain color of stickers can go to the carpool area, and the rest of the days the other color can go. So it can vary, so we have less traffic in our carpool area. And the car plates, for example, if your car plate ends in an odd number, you can go certain days, and even numbers you can go the other days.
Hi. So this is the cost of fuel, and we can conclude that natural gas is cheaper than diesel and gasoline. It's at $2.17. And so what FedEx did, they got cleaner and diesel Sprinter vans, and they installed hybrid vehicles, so they don't have to emit as much. And with the routes, what they did was they mapped out where their delivery is and see with the traffic lights, and so they don't have to stop and they don't have to idle their car and have it running while they're stopping.
So how can we help other schools? We can talk about our solutions worldwide, like we were doing in GIN. We're talking to other schools from other places so they can spread the word about what's going on. And talking about what our school is doing, like we are doing right now. And talk about how we help your school. And by doing these things, we can be an example to other schools, not only in other countries, but in other schools in Lima. So we can be the example for other schools to copy the sustainable transportation.
So what we want to do is reduce the greenhouse effect and reduce the amount of emissions. We want a livable community where it's an easier way to live with without having to cover your mouth while you're walking the streets or smelling everything and not smelling really nice air. Because basically in Lima, we're breathing in like CO2, not actually fresh air. Increasing better health, because also breathing in all these emissions and all the CO2 would actually means really bad for our health. And decreasing into traffic, so we also want to reduce the emissions. So for our activity, we're gonna do a quiz. So trying to can you guys on your phone or on the computer or whatever device go to this link and answer the questions? And these are questions.
So basically, these are some multiple choice questions. So if you get 7 out of 10 questions right, then
No, it's not 7 out of 10.
Oh no, it's
If you
8.
get 5 out of 8, you get candy, but I think we're running out of time, so how much time?
Wait, so if you guys
Actually,
can
we'll
do
do it together.
Yeah.
We have time. I don't know if it's rushing. We have time.
So should we make them do it by themselves or do it together?
Is this a Google Doc?
Yes.
Do you want to share it with everyone?
No,
We're just gonna make it a tiny one so it's easier to share with you.
So go to that link and it's a Google Doc.
We don't even get it until 2:30, right? Yeah, guys, you can access it through the tiny. That'll make it way easier for you to type in.
Did you guys get into a Google Doc?
No, that's too many links.
Yeah, it's a
This.
I know.
Yeah, it goes to.
So you guys can access?
Is there any way to freeze the so I can edit?
Lots.
I'll write down.
Yes, write it on the board, that's a good idea.
Wait, is this your personal phone?